This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Me hearties, and welcome once again to the stormy seas of the internet and full stream ahead. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Disappearing behind my bookshelf right now. That's for those people who are watching us on video. Oh, man. So, this episode opens with John Walker running. Oh, where you running to? Don't you know you can't get away? And you do have to ask, like, where is he running to? Where it's like
an instinctual impulse to get away from the moment.
Yeah,
but that's all.
I think he knows the moment was bad. I think he knows he effed up. And, you know, kind of in that sad way that you think about it, we kind of discussed it last episode, you know, that kind of means he kind of left Lamar where he left Lamar. That he ran, you know, he maybe tried to figure out where Kylie might have gone, but really had no leads and just sort of picked a direction and ran. And
yeah, either that or like chase or asked him where Carly was or something, or like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, bad choices. That is what John Walker has made. Because again, if he had captured that guy at the end of last episode, maybe they could have gotten some information. Maybe something else could have happened. But he made the choice he made. It was the wrong choice, and the whole world is watching. And this brings us to what amounts to our big fight scene for this episode. Which is kind of, for as engaging of an episode as it is, the penultimate episode, take a drink, there is a lot in this episode that is emotional work. Everything we have to work through to make a good story. But we do have our punches, and we have some amazing punches and kicks in this.
And it was sort of really mirroring Civil War.
Well, really, actually, this kind of, to me, mirrors Infinity War.
How so?
Oh, because very much there's that scene when Falcon and Bucky are trying to pull the shield.
Oh, yes, very much so. Absolutely.
And it is just like, oh, just a little more, you know.
Yeah. Or just the three of them standing there in that, you know, really green-colored room.
Yeah.
You know, it looked like Iron Man versus Captain Bucky, and it's different Cap, but Bucky, but he's on the other side now. It was just, there's a bunch of little things like that were really, really cool.
And again, it is Sam trying to de-escalate. And, you know, I'm going to say this right now. I think Sam makes the wrong choice here when he asks for the shield. Because
what should he have done? Should he have not asked for it, or should he ask for it?
No. Because it's a security blanket. He's like, look, man, we gotta fix this.
Oh, because it's only setting him off more. You'll get the shield.
Exactly.
Not them. I see what you're saying. I agree.
Yeah, and trying to get this shield back at this point, I think, was not as helpful. I mean, I guess in the long run it's helpful, but in this moment...
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I think, maybe he should have said, let's put the shield away.
Yeah.
Let's reach out to the GRC.
Let's get you out of here.
Exactly.
That would have been the move.
Exactly, just...
We're here. We got your back. Let's get you out of here.
And that's what he needed. He needed someone to say they had his back.
Yeah.
And instead they're like, but no, again, that's Bucky. To me, that is always that Bucky, that those two people with the bad super soldier serums just wanting to fight. And Sam's the guy who's trying to negotiate this, but I really feel that Bucky and Walker are just oil and water the whole time. And I think they bring out the worst in each other. And in this moment, they need to get, they obviously want to get the shield, but they're not going to get the shield unless they take it from him. And that's what ensues. And they do, and honestly, this is a beautiful fight. We get so many great Falcon punch, Falcon kick, Falcon punch,
Yeah.
We see him using the wings to actually accelerate his punch, to accelerate his kick, to put him on that, super soldier level. Much in the same way that, Iron Man does, when he fights these things,
Or Batman.
Or Batman, yes. It is this idea that, this tech-based solution actually solves, it's sort of the issue with all of this, which is like, you realize, trying to recreate the super soldier serum, it's cool and all, but we've kind of already lapped it with tech. It's, a well-trained person with vibranium or even just some Stark tech really is at a super soldier level just at the start, And to be fair, when you think about it, John and Lamar were holding their own against the flag smashing super soldiers,
Yep.
Early on. Now, this, of course, as we know, this is John Walker. He's hopped up on serum. He is, he was not in a good mental place when he took it.
Right.
And that's what I'm going to say about this, is like, I think that John Walker can, as much as Bucky can be redeemed post serum, I think John Walker can be redeemed. I think that there is a story where John Walker gets better.
Yeah.
In the same way that Jack Monroe and William Burnside arguably could get better.
Right. Somebody should have known better to know how to best use him.
Well, somebody shouldn't have been in such a rush, is what it comes down to.
Right.
That's always the thing, is anytime they rush into these things, we need to get a new Captain America out there. Because not for nothing, they have an Iron Patriot. They could have been trotting out Rhodey at all the events. Rhodey is still in the military. Rhodey follows orders. They could have given Rhodey the shield. I don't think anyone would have been mad to see Iron Patriot, Rhodey, with the shield, fighting for freedom.
But again, that brings
trouble.
the race issue, which is, I guess, central to this episode.
Yeah, he's wearing a mask. To be fair, and that gives a parallel to the Blue Marvel, whereas when the Blue Marvel, who is a superhero in Marvel Comics, who was also a hero in the 50s, when he was just the Blue Marvel, everyone loved him, but when he had a battle and his costume got ripped and everyone saw he was black, that's when JFK said, you kind of need to not be the Blue Marvel anymore.
Wow. They made JFK say that in the comics?
They made JFK say that, yeah. Because that was who was president at the time. And it was just this idea of, look, it might have been LBJ. I actually haven't read that comic, like, word for word. I've done the research into the comic, but I haven't read the comic yet. So, which is just a great thing about just all literature in general, is that you can know a lot about a book you've never read if you read all the analysis and the breakdowns of the book. But yeah, and it is the idea that, he gets revealed as being this black man who was a superhero and and a kind of a Superman pastiche who was fighting for freedom wherever there was trouble. But, once it gets out that he is black, it was kind of like, you can still do super stuff, you can still do these things, but we can't have you be the open symbol of us, So you can continue super science, you can continue superheroing when needed, but, don't expect us to be having the Blue Marvel parade anytime soon. So honestly, that's an interesting alternate universe where they actually just give James Rhodes the shield. And he's got his War Machine armor, and he is, maybe that's a much better universe. Maybe then, like, And we're like, okay, I can deal with that. Yeah, way to go. You know, and then he's going to partner with them, and then you get Iron Patriot and the Falcon. You know, that would have been a fun episode. But anyway, not what we got. Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, when you think about it historically, I mean, obviously, you know, Rhodey has already been the Iron Patriot in this universe, and you know that is something that has existed. So, why were we treading it? But anyway, as it stands, Bucky and Sam get the tar beaten out of them, but have just enough tar left that they do beat all of the tar out of John Walker.
The way they break that arm is just, oh man.
Yeah, well, you know, it's what you got to do. And to be fair, you know, I mean, you know, you see Bucky's. You mean Bucky's arm getting broken or John Walker's?
No, John Walker's. When they're pulling that shield off and
oh, that's why he screams.
Right.
I actually didn't even put that together, but that's why his arm's in the sling, because they probably really damaged his arm in that. So yeah. I was actually waiting for, like, you know, Bucky's arm to not heal it, fix itself, you know, because it gets like smacked down and you see all its arcing electricity.
It's nanotech. It's like, you know, each of the little molecules have memories and able to interpret information and act accordingly, so it can reassemble itself at a very nano level. It's high tech, man.
You hope so, but that didn't seem to work out well for Sam's wings.
Were they vibranium though, or were they Wakandan tech?
Well, they were Stark tech, but Stark was working with the nanotechs too.
Yes, he was. He was indeed. Although he might not have afforded that level of sophistication to Falcon's wings.
That is possible. Although we do get Torres being given the damaged wings, you know.
Oh, I didn't see that thread, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it says, what do you want me to do with these? Just keep them. I was like, well, thank you, since I've been wanting to work on these for a while now. Because it is an interesting conversation they have, because it is, you know, because, you know, it's an interesting way that people talk past each other in this story, because Torres looks at the wings. Sam asks, is there anything we can do? And doesn't talk about the wings, because it almost sounds like he's asking, you know, Torres, is there anything we can do for the wings? But really, Torres responds, no, we can't do anything about the flag smashers right now, because we have to wait for the next orders, you know. You know, orders, the thing that, you know, freaking John Walker just wanted everyone to follow and have a chain of command. So yeah, but that's that idea, and so yeah, now Torres has. So it would not surprise me to see Torres in the wings.
That would be cool.
Maybe not at the battle at the UN at the end. Although it's an interesting aspect of this, because that battle at the UN ties very closely to the first appearance of the 1950s Cap, which was a relaunch of Caps, and that's when we got the Captain America Commie Smasher Cap, which was the William Burnside's Cap, who was the guy who was so obsessed with Cap he actually had plastic surgery to make himself look like Steve Rogers. Changed his name to Steve Rogers.
Wow.
And, you know, was a teacher and had a kid named Jack Monroe become his Bucky. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's a lot of Cap lore, but his first appearance is when the communist Red Skull seized a UN meeting, which the GRC is, and then Cap has to go and defeat him. So it's going to be interesting what happens in the next episode, without a doubt. But in this story, we don't get a lot of everybody else. We mostly get Sam trying to figure out what to do with his shield. He goes to speak with Isaiah Bradley. And Isaiah Bradley is a guy who's seen some stuff.
Yeah.
And really is stepping on Sam for being a naive kid who thinks the world can change.
What I loved about this scene was really illustrating that these are really, really difficult questions. And sometimes there are multiple ways to look at them. Like, you can't fault Isaiah Bradley for his perspective, right? He's perfectly well within reason to, that's the world he knows. But at the same time, you mirror that with the conversation Sam has with his sister at the end. She's like, you can't let him direct what you need to do. The world is changing. We're birthing a new world. So our responsibility to be involved in its creation and have some say in how we rebuild this thing, you have a responsibility to that as well. That those two arguments can coexist side by side, and neither of them can be faulted as being wrong. But you have to take both of those into account. And when you're creating a new world, or as you're just working your life, you have to take both of those into account. And there's no right or wrong. All you can do is take both of those into account and how you progress forward and try to do your best.
And that is what it is. And, one of the, to me, and it's interesting because I realized later that it's actually Sam who sees it, it's actually Bucky who sees it, not Sam. I think what the real turning point in this whole discussion is when Sam's nephews start playing with the shield. I'm guessing they've cleaned the blood off it by this point.
Right.
But, and it comes into this idea, you don't pick up the shield for the past generations. You pick it up for the next generation. That, it's this idea that, yes, things have been horrible. And no, I don't think they're different. But I do think that it's only going to get different if the next generation sees it differently. If there's a different world that they're standing in.
Right. If we don't walk away from it because of the hurt and we
actually
forgive and try to move on.
Well, you don't have to even forgive. Just have to move on. You don't have to forget. You don't have to forgive. But you do have to understand that, Monday's a 9 to 5 day.
Right. I mean, it can.
That's the difference.
It can certainly.
Well, yeah, it can help you. That's the thing. It's like forgiving people.
Isn't that why we're here? We're trying to help ourselves, So.
Exactly. Which I think is the great thing when Sam really gets into Bucky's head about the whole book and making amends. And he makes this point, you're not making amends, you're avenging. You're trying to fix the red in your ledger. Literally. And of course, it is a telling point that this was supposed to come out after Black Widow. And I get the feeling that everything we see in this episode is going to make a lot more sense after Black Widow. That what was meant to be rhyming in this is actually going to be the thing that, now we understand when we go back. Because the whole thing with Black Widow is she has red in her ledger. And how does she undo the red? And the point that Sam makes is you don't undo the red by, hurting the people you formerly helped who are evil. You undo the red by finding the people that just need
right, because
the closure.
What you're doing by avenging, there's no personal sacrifice there, right? There's no vulnerability. You're not giving of yourself. You're giving, but you're not giving of yourself. When you come and you apologize and take responsibility and give somebody the closure by taking the hurt on with them, that's, where you're giving of your spirit. And that's where you can seek redemption. Yeah. You got to take some of that hurt. You can't avoid the hurt and accept to get redemption without paying for it.
Exactly. I mean, that's what Bucky has to realize. Right,
and that's what's beautiful about this moment to me is this is what Bucky has been searching for. We've always been like, why is Bucky chasing after Sam? Why is Bucky doing this? Why is Sam so important to him? He's been trying every other avenue to find that bit of peace inside of him, and it's an interesting mirror between this moment and 6 years ago in Wakanda when he found freedom through the Dora Milaje. Here, he's been seeking this psychotherapist, and he can't bring himself to be honest with her when she says, have you been having these dreams? He lies. He doesn't trust her. But here, when Sam says, you've been having these dreams, it's every night. This is the moment he's been waiting for. This is why Sam was so important to him. When he said, you ready for some tough love? He's like, finally, you're ready to give me the tough love that I've been chasing after you to give me. And that's when he finally gets it. And he goes, okay. And he has that same moment of freedom where he walks away. His face looks different. He's got a smile of contentment and of peace, as he walks away. He's ready to walk away. He's like, hey, call me if you need me. I'm fine. I'm not chasing you around anymore. I'm good. I got what I needed from you. It was a beautiful moment, and that psychologist couldn't give it to him. Anybody couldn't give it to him. It's just somebody who knew him, who was a friend, who cared enough to say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. He's like, oh, okay. Now he has his North Star. He has his sense of direction.
Yeah.
Where he feels like that even that part of him that's the Winter Soldier that needs to be directed has find something good to be directed by.
Yeah. And what it is he needed to want it. And that's the thing. I don't think that he wanted it until he did want it. And it's the reality that, anytime that anyone is working through this stuff, anytime anyone is in any kind of recovery, there has to be this moment where they're willing to accept their need for recovery. And I think he had to go through all this with Sam. He had to build a bond with someone else again, that he could feel that there was a person he could truly trust. And, for good or ill, he was never going to have that with the psychiatrist, because the psychiatrist, quite frankly, wasn't someone he was adventuring with. And it's the fact that, unfortunately for Bucky, he can't accept your advice, which is actually really a major flaw in Bucky's personality. He can't accept the advice until, until you beat me in battle, then I cannot accept you as
No, but it's not just that. It's a measure of knowing who somebody really is when you fight with them or alongside them. There's an interesting quote. Like there's Cron Gracie. He's a famous jiu-jitsu player of a lineage. His father was, they say, the greatest jiu-jitsu player of all time, Rickson Gracie, one of the progenitors of the art. And he says something interesting. He goes, when I meet somebody, you meet them, you shake their hand, you talk to them, you feel like you get to know them, but you don't really know them. I don't consider that I know somebody until I get on the mat, until I roll with them, until I see what they do when they are in a tough situation. That tells me more about who they are as a person, right? Everybody can put on pretenses and masks, and that's who you really meet generally when you meet people. But when you encounter somebody in that sort of a situation where they have to bring every bit of themselves to bear to save themselves, they're really more of themselves in that situation. So when you encounter somebody in that state of mind, you feel like you really get to know who they are as a person, what they would do when push comes to shove. Are they a coward? Do they have courage? Those sorts of things are illuminated in these moments. So when you get to know somebody from that level, then you can trust them. Everything else, especially for someone like that who spends his life in life and death moments, that's just pretense. He's just meeting pretense. He's not meeting the person. Mm-hmm. So until he gets to know the person, that's the only time he can trust somebody. And I think that's what Battle has done to him. Yeah.
And I think that's where they do connect. And we also we go to the Sokovia. Well, we assume it's the Sokovia Memorial,
right?
That's that is an interesting question in that, because I always thought it was very interesting that it's the four people. It kind of looks like a family. We know that Zemo's father was around. That his father, his wife, and his children died. And I do think he did have 2 kids. So there was a part of me that kind of felt like this was a headstone for the Zemos.
Right.
More than a Sokovian memorial. But then again, that goes into that idea that I have of Zemo, which is like, well, the Zemos are Sokovia. They are, so yes, of course, we commissioned the, my family to be what the perfect Sokovian image is, the grandfather, the wife, and the 2 children. I could be wrong on that, but, it is it's interesting how it all plays out, especially with, Bucky coming with the gun, which is the scene we saw in the trailer where he holds the gun, but then we see that the bullets fall. And it is just this idea that he came there, he just wanted to scare him. And he wanted to see what he would do. And the real interesting thing in that, and it's an interesting, third-dimensional chess question that you can have with Zemo, which is he flinches when the trigger gets pulled because he did not imagine that Bucky would really kill him. but at the same time, Bucky did not kill him. So was this exactly what Zemo expected all along? And then he happily gets transferred, not back to the prison in Germany he escaped from, but to the Raft, the superhuman place, which is where we get into that whole Thunderbolts question with him, where you do have to ask, was this his master plan all along? You know, that if I can get myself
willingly enough.
Well, exactly. That's the idea, you know. Although there is the argument that maybe he doesn't want to fight for Dora Milaje and Bucky in an open field. Although at the same time, he clearly had enough time that he could have prepared. You know, he could have Batmaned it if he didn't want to go along. So I get the feeling he was more than willing to go along because at the end of the day, his work isn't done.
Right.
Even, you know, again, to give you that sense of Zemo superiority, he says, I crossed out my own name in your book because I just want you to know no hard feelings between you and I. It's like, yeah, that's...
And that moment is interesting for Bucky, too, because he's taking, you know, he's turning that leaf, you know, saying that I'm going to start amending, not avenging. So he wants to get it out of his system, so he shoots him in the blind and says, okay, now I'm done. But it's actively making the decision that my shots will not be lethal anymore, that I'm making the effort to do things the right way.
Yeah. And I really hope it works out good for Bucky, you know? I mean, I know we're going to see him next episode. Yeah. I know we might be seeing more people next episode, although maybe not. You know, I don't know how many people. And the
funniest part of it all is when times are kind of relatively okay, we have the luxury of hoping Bucky can be good. But then when push comes to shove, you know, when the aliens attack, we're like, hey, Bucky, we need you to be old Bucky again. You know, so what is a man to do?
Well, I mean, to be fair, and again, Cap killed more than his fair share of aliens that day. You know, that's the thing. It's like Cap is not, you know, that's the thing. You want a guy who can be Cap, who can handle what needs to be done. You know, I am a really big...
the baggage that comes with it and take it like a man and not make it, you know, like that. If that's the responsibility you've taken, to take on that baggage, take on and don't complain about it.
There's a really good series called Have Gun Will Travel. It's from the 50s, and it's your typical cowboy thing, but it's basically this idea of this disillusioned West Point, you know, genius grad who becomes a gunslinger in San Francisco in the, you know, late 1870s, you know. So, you know, post-war, he's where he's at, and he's like, you know, the whole world is a bit of a bunch of idiots chomping at each other, but the fact of the matter is there's still power in knowledge and wisdom and being a cool gunslinger. And, you know, that's, to me, is who Cap is. He's a guy who is... He knows how to diffuse a situation because he knows just because I have the gun and I'm the best at wielding the gun, I don't need to live by my gun because I have all these other weapons of the mind and of the word and of other things that I can utilize when I need to. And that, quite frankly, the gun is only as useful and my muscles and my fighting skills are only as useful as I am on a one-on-one fight. That the more I pick a fight everywhere I go, the more enemies I'll make. And so I have to be able to understand what the real complexities of the situation are. So, yeah, big fan of Have Gun Will Travel. I'm surprised that has never yet been rebooted. It's one of these weird properties that exists out there that is really good, but no one has tried to put a new take on it. And I think there's a lot of reasons why, but I think it could be good. But Paladin, played by, I forget his last, but his last name is Boone, but he was an actor named Boone, and he's a very stereotypical cowboy actor, and you know, he is that 1870s Captain America. You know, that's who that you would want that to be. And you know, that's who Bucky is, or at least who Bucky could be. If you want to, that's who Sam is. I think these are all people that can take the actions they need to when they need to, because that's the action that's needed in this moment. They can understand that for as much as Achilles is mad in his tent, that still, war must come, and then the war came. And then, we had to right wrongs from our perspective. And, history judges if we were really right or wrong in that moment. As I always say, for anything you want to say about the Germans, they were attacked first in World War I. It's the terrorists who assassinated Archduke Ferdinand. And yes, there is ancestral hatreds that fed into World War I, but it's really the Allies who are on the side of the terrorists who started the war, not the Germans actively.
Also, I guess there's an argument to be made by proportionary response.
Yeah, well, as with anything, it's, but you kill a head of state. That's usually considered kind of poor form.
Sure.
I'm sure if the Soviets had ever killed JFK, that LBJ would have launched some missiles. So,
Yeah.
And maybe that would have been the wrong choice.
Yeah. Man, wow.
Well,
but what? An archduke is not a president, Like, what is?
Well, he was the head of the Ottoman Empire, I believe, wasn't he?
I mean, I think he was like a part of like a small place, nothing. I mean, it was more like an affront to the ego than.
Well, but really, it's the whole Ottoman Empire. So, I won't say that Archduke Ferdinand was he wasn't Kaiser Wilhelm, but he certainly.
Right.
So,
exactly. Right.
So put it this way: if I guess one could argue that. So, is it that somebody killed Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump decided that was
more like a governor. Like if somebody like if a Russian dignitary came here and put like a uranium pill inside Governor Cuomo's thing, and Cuomo gets poisoned or whatever. I think that would be like. I mean, it's still crazy
still kind of,
but it's not JFK.
Yeah. Fair enough. So the level, and I don't
know if that would warrant, like a full scale, military attack on,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's the constant, and that's the real truth of it, is that the war was coming regardless.
Right.
Right. And again, going to things like World War I and World War II and the Soviet Union, and arguably even the War on Terror. That all these things were coming regardless. And everyone was just waiting for that moment when they got to exert their desire for conquest. Or their desire for order. Because both desires stem from the same place, that idea of order and structure to the world is also that desire for conquest. And even the flag smashers want order to the world. They want a world ordered not around borders and flags, but around humanity, which sounds all well and good and that's actually the most interesting. This is a parallel that I don't think a lot of people have touched on with the flag smashers. After World War II, so essentially what happened is, as you know, a genocide was committed. People were taken from their homes, and all their homes were lost. And once their homes were gone, other people moved into those homes. Now, after the war, obviously people came back and said, why y'all living in my house? And historically, everyone said, well, we're just going to call you the refugee because you were the one, your house and everything was taken from you, but we're not going to reestablish you. And so this situation is essentially the opposite, where the world said, no. These are the people that were taken from their houses. That's their house. We're going to give them their house back. And then people said, well, where am I supposed to live? And that is what gets us to our GRC and the relocation camps and where we're going to put everyone, because the house was empty when they moved in. They didn't remove anyone from that house. But obviously the weight of the history of when other people were removed from their houses much more maliciously weighs on everyone. And so they ask, well, what do we do? And there is a sense of justice that says, well, if you were removed from your house, you should get your house back. And that is the problem the GRC is dealing with. That is the problem that flag smashers don't want to accept, because you can see clearly how easily it would be to flip the script. And it's all the de-blipped who are going to refugee camps.
Right.
It's all the de-blipped who are now in that place because, well, no, someone has been living there for 5 years. Right.
But at the same time, it's a different question, morally speaking, altogether. Because in that situation, you ever seen that movie Up in the Air with
George Clooney?
George Clooney. Beautiful movie. And how this giant corporation is letting people off, and they're having these exit interviews, and they're hiring these really psychologically adept people to speak to these people to help them frame this experience in a positive way where they can, do the best good to the people leaving and leave them in the best position to be able to rebuild and do something. So I think something like that would have been helpful in situations like this. If you're going to displace all these people or do things, have like these little places where you sit down and talk to these people and say, okay, tell me why you think you deserve it. And I bet you it'd be really hard to find a logical argument except for, oh, I'd really like you to. But like, really, if you think about it, this was this person's home. Whatever happens, they have to come back. If you can make, and I bet no one would be able to, but at least in that way, you leave somebody understanding their situation and not feeling like they were victimized when they know that the truth of the reality of the situation is the world is dealing with a difficult, situation. We all have to do to bring society back to where it needs to be.
The problem is you have to do that 4 billion times. And that's where it gets to be complex.
Why you have AIs.
So you said everyone sit down with an AI to...
Yeah,
you just have Vision talk to him.
Yeah, just have...
Except Vision's dead. We don't get him back until Wanda rebuilds him. That's the problem. If only Vision was alive. It's like in alternate realities where the Vision AI was restored, and if only Shuri had gotten the stone out without damaging Vision.
Yeah.
Like if they'd only started a little bit earlier, and she had been able to remove the stone, and the Vision AI could establish itself.
If only Doctor Strange had looked at 14,934, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Dualities.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. For however many, and in an infinite number, that's still only a drop in the bucket. There were billions upon billions of universes he didn't look at, and I still say he mostly didn't want Tony Stark to have the stones. That was the biggest problem. It was like, oh man!
I wonder what that eventually would have meant in that permutation of choices that he saw. Like, how bad could that have gotten?
I think it could have gotten really bad. Quite frankly, I think it could have been way worse than anything anyone had imagined.
Because he's a slave to human impulses and human flaws.
Exactly.
He can't give that kind of power to us.
And to be more fair, the biggest problem with it is that the stones have a sentience in them, and they're going to control what you do, and also take a cost from you when you utilize them. I actually think the stones just wanted to be dissipated. I think the stones wanted to stop being stones, wanted to stop being a path to a door. And it's like, how can we get someone to dissipate us?
Right, but then again, the natural order of the world is to find balance, and if you collect all these energies that's in balance and it doesn't like it, and it's just trying to not be coalesced again and to serve the world, and somebody's usurping all its power into one central point for their own purposes, and that goes against what the universe likes to be doing in a balanced situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of complexities to it, which I'm sure Marvel will be exploring over the next 500 years. So... that's the good news about storytelling, is it doesn't stop.
Yes.
All right. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode about our end credit scene?
I like the little montage of Sam getting better with the shield.
Yeah.
Montage, he's doing little push-ups and getting beaten by the shield, and then finally finding his strength with it. That was cool.
That was cool. Yeah, and it's always and it is this idea that he has to. And there was a neat little article, just that it takes more than a training montage to be Captain America, to be the first black, or to be the first openly black Captain America. It is an interesting thing, but I think he's got through that too, and I think that him and his sister. Honestly, I'm kind of shipping Sarah and Bucky right now. Mm-hmm. Although I know that it's all forbidden fruit for everybody in that situation. But I'm like, yeah, but but what if they did? But as it is, I love that training montage, because if nothing else, it's just. Who doesn't love an 80s training montage?
Right. With a little kid running past him, mirroring, him and Cap going to your left, on your left, And the little kid, he's doing his little laps around their house or their town or whatever.
It was very sweet and very, it's good.
When Sam calls in the favor and everybody in the community comes to help, that was kind of nice to see too.
Yeah, I love the actual idea there where, like, when they have the leak in the steam pipe, and Bucky says, no, you have to lift it from up here, and he's using his human arm, which, for what it's worth, is still a super soldier arm.
Right.
But he's like, why didn't you just use the robot arm? It's like, you know what? I often forget I have it because I'm right-handed. Which is interesting because it also suggests that the super soldier serum he got did not make him duodextrous. Cap was duodextrous.
Well, maybe but is that more a function of patterns that you've built versus physical capability?
Yeah, I mean, it could also be that he doesn't have an arm, so he doesn't even think to use that arm because it's not really his arm. He knows it's not there, and he knows that he's right-handed. So there's lots of options there. It's neat, but I like that they decide to keep the boat. I don't know if that's a practical decision in any conceivable way. I hope they get that loan.
But he's about to become Captain America. Things are going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, I am really curious as to what the wings they sent him look like.
Well, no, I think they sent him a new Captain America suit.
Well, but I assume it's wings.
Oh, you think?
I assume. Oh no, it's definitely because Wakanda built his original wings.
Right. But since Bucky may have talked to them and says, "Yo, he's becoming Captain America." Send him a nice little suit, so they made him a new Captain America suit.
See, that's the thing. I don't think he would have, because it's after that when he asked for the favor. It's after that he says to Bucky, when Steve told me what you were going to do, what he was going to do. I don't think any of us thought what it would mean for a black man to be Captain America.
Right. So they might have had the suit in production then because they didn't understand what they were asking of him. They're like, yeah, you'll do it. Make the suit.
Well, but it's interesting. I'm looking forward to see what it is. If it's going to have that red, white, and blue motif, or if it's just going to be, I think it's going to be a dark navy, and then he can add red and white where he needs to. But I do.
I think he's still going to have wings, though.
Oh, it'll definitely be wings. Yeah, I don't think because for what it's worth, that's what he's been working with. He's been working with wings. He's been working, and that's
his. He has a shield. It's like
but the wings are his advantage.
I guess
that's what makes him at that super soldier level.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
See, none of the other super soldiers can fly. We got Batroc back.
Oh, that was great. Yes, indeed. Nice to have GSP back.
And presumably, maybe sprung from jail by Sharon?
Yes.
Because she makes the point that,
right.
You'd still be rotting in an Algerian prison if not for me.
Right.
So, of course, that's the thing is we assume she's talking to Batroc there. I don't know that for a fact.
No, it sounds like him on the phone. He's
it does sound like
French.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe. It would be, but that also suggests that Sharon is actually part of the, whatever they said, the LRC.
Yeah, but then again, this seems like, standard operating procedure for SHIELD agents or whatever they're called now. to spring bad guys out of jail. Like he did it with Zemo. She's doing it with Batroc. You know, it's like that's what we do.
Yeah, although arguably to kill Sam, although perhaps within the idea that he's not going to kill Sam. You know.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
You know, it is that idea that, you know, I'm going to spring him because it's going to help my plan, and that's what's going to give Kylie the motivation to move. That's going to trigger Sam to make his move. And yes, you know, all these things happening, but I still have faith that Sam and Bucky are going to be able to handle it. You know, but this is what those of us on this side of it. Now, the real question is the Contessa Valeria Allegra de Fontaine working with Sharon? And that's the deep, because clearly they set up Julia Louis.
Clearly working for the power broker, and this is the power broker's whole deal.
Well, is that the power broker, or is that the new Fury within whatever the structure is that is sending people deep cover into Madripoor to play both sides of the fence? That they need a believable deep, and it's like anytime you go, anyone goes deep cover. It's like, yeah, you've got to make yourself be seen to that.
Like he seems perfect for Madripoor. Like if you need a super soldier representing our interests in Madripoor, the way, like, the dialect that's spoken in Madripoor, you know, as a metaphor, like, he speaks that dialect really well. You know what I mean? He's perfect for that theater.
Who?
John Walker.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, I think it'd be perfect. And for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's where they're sending him. So that's that's good management. That's good management.
And that's where it's like, you know, as Valeria says, Valeria, as Val says. And I love that she says Val, because it is a tie-in to Val Cooper, who was the person who controlled John Walker. But it's also, call me Val, but just call me Val in your head. Sort of like, yeah, I'm filling, it's sort of a hint to the comic guys. I'm filling in that Val Cooper role, but I'm not Val Cooper. So you can think of me in the way you thought of Val Cooper in this story, but I'm also not that. And
I think the coolest thing about her was her business card had nothing on it. Such a cool move, because she takes the time to like search for it, pull it out, hand it to her. Nothing. Oh, mwah, what a beautiful.
Well,
like,
exactly. It's.
Oh man.
It's brilliant. Although one wonders if, like, when it's ready, it's going to have something show up.
Right. But just like, it's so dismissive. It's like, you don't matter at all. But I'm so like, I'm going to take my time to tell you how much you don't matter. Here's a piece of candy. Here's some Turkish delight. Go away. Oh my God. It's so great. Yeah. It's so beautiful. Mwah. What a little bit of character that they show us who she is in that moment. Oh, it's great. So good.
Yeah, and I really, and you know, unlike the Paul Bettany that everyone got mad about, and for what it's worth, I think we all got burned with Bentley. But you know, Bentley, I don't blame him. I think we were all like, okay, we're gonna manage our expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
And to me, this lived up to the expectations.
I thought it was great. Just as a troll job itself, I thought it was hilarious. That to me made up for it. It was great.
Yeah, and I agree with what they said, which is that this is a character that you would love to see dealing with characters way outside their weight class. That this is a very Amanda Waller kind of character. This is the kind of person that is not going to back down when you say, well, you know, I'm the God of Thunder. It's like, that's fine. Let me tell you what you're going to do for us because it's in your best interest.
Right. See, I'm a fan of hers. See, that's people that should be in charge. People like her. It might be painting her as a bad guy, but whatever you give her as a directive, that's someone that's going to get the job done. And she understands people and what motivates people and how to get people to do what they want and where they're best and to put them there and use them where they're best. I love this character.
Yeah. So, I mean, as an episode, this was fantastic. I think it hits every note you want it to hit. It gives you time to ponder everything. It is the penultimate episode. Take a drink. And it gives you what you need when you leave the episode. Where, like, I am very excited about next week's episode.
Indeed.
It's going to be beautiful. I imagine. And, I'm looking forward to see what John and his homemade shield do.
Post-credit scene.
Yeah. And again, which is one of these weird things where that sound cue, that ping, 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 the person building his own identity now.
Right, so that's a really hopeful take on his future. The fact that they're bringing that thing sound, that usually means, somebody's finding their way out of the darkness they didn't know they were involved in, or something to that effect. And he's building, like you said, a new version of himself. So maybe that points to a hopeful trajectory for him.
Oh, yeah. Here's what I'm going to tell you. John Walker is actually a very beloved character.
Right on.
For as he was, he was very much created to be an anti-Cap.
Right.
And the idea, because he was the super patriot, he was sort of like whenever you see a parody of Superman or Captain America in other genres, where he's just very, very Reagan Republican-y, that's who John Walker was supposed to be. Mm. And the fact of the matter is that as much as that can be difficult to work with that idea, it actually can resonate with people, because there's a people who want to believe in an inherent goodness and superior, like the idea of the superiority of the American ideal, the idea of,
it's not about superiority. It's about taking pride that it is there and it deserves to be there just as much as anything else, and it's worth protecting.
Exactly. And, when you get into that idea of the idea of democracy and order and egalitarianism, even in a flawed system, that those things are positives. And
right. I mean, like, it might not work for everybody else, but it works for us. And, it's worth protecting to us. Mm. We're not saying it's the best, but it's the best for us. Whatever's the best for you, go do it. But this is what's best for us, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah. And then we're going to protect the hell out of our way of doing that.
Exactly, And so I do think there is a redemption arc for John Walker. Hmm. I do think Wyatt Russell is going to get his chance to be who he needs to be. Right. I'm really sad we lost Battlestar. I'm really sad. Yeah. Although one could argue, we know the Deathlock program exists in the Marvel Universe, so we may see Lamar
They had so many options to save him.
Yeah. Well,
they might still well save him. Although I will say, I'm glad to see him building a new suit, because man, oh man, did they go to the ends of the earth to make that suit fit like, you ever see like those pictures of like two kids in a giant overcoat trying to get into the movie for one, like wearing an adult suit? That shot where they pan him up at the end after he kills the guy with the shield in the last episode, where he's just standing there like, and it just looks like the suit is like hanging off of him in really unflattering ways, like it doesn't belong to him. And so now that he's building a new suit, so sort of not make him look so goofy, like I'm looking forward to that.
The point is, Mozz, the suit was never supposed to fit.
Right. And they really went far with that. It's like, I get it. Look, man. So I hope he gets a well-fitting suit.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. What you can say is they do understand visual storytelling. They do know how to tell a dark and complex story, and they do it well. And that's why we are. And that's why this story is being reviewed by us. Okay. Mozz, I hope you've enjoyed talking to me. I've certainly enjoyed talking to you. If people had a hard time understanding us, it may be because they're using subpar headphones. And for that, they should go to tweakedaudio.com, use the coupon code Southgate upon checkout to get high-quality headphones at a fraction of retail cost. Likewise, you can also use that same coupon code Southgate at checkout for hunterkiller.com to stimulate your brain. Because I found, as I've stimulated my brain more, I'm watching more game shows, and I've just found myself getting faster and smarter. And sometimes you have to stimulate your brain. And what better way to do that than to have a bunch of random clues delivered to your house to help Michelle Gray solve a cold case. Use the coupon code Southgate to help solve that mystery and make yourself a better person. Likewise, you can go down to our show notes, click on the Amazon link, go over to Amazon, buy anything you want. We don't care, really. anything you want. We don't judge. It's going to help out the show. It's not going to cost you a dime, and it's going to make for a better show experience for everyone in general. And while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book written by the Southgate Media Group community. Find out why we podcast. You can get it either in a hard copy or digital if you're not worried about the apocalypse. And if anyone does any of that, Mozz, how can they reach out and talk to you about it?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way where Mozz and Poz once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet something, eventually probably Powerpuff Girls, starring Chloe Bennett from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., at Charlie Esser. That's CHARLIESSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you scurvy landlubbers, you've made it through another tumultuous episode of Full Stream Ahead. We have been tempest-tossed, but we are once more again at port. Disembark now, but come again next week, as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arr.